Law enforcement encountered this burglar who posted photos of his stolen goods on Instagram, with location tags from the victim's house still visible. He'd stolen electronics, televisions, and jewelry, then immediately took selfies with the loot in front of the homeowner's recognizable fireplace. The police followed his social media posts like a breadcrumb trail and arrested him within 24 hours. He seemed shocked that posting evidence of crimes online was a terrible strategy. Detectives once arrested someone for breaking into a store who'd left his wallet at the crime scene with his ID, address, phone number, and credit cards inside. He'd committed the theft, panicked, dropped his identification, and apparently never realized it was missing. Police showed up at his house the next morning with his wallet in hand. He answered the door still wearing clothes matching the surveillance video footage. Robbers occasionally make mistakes, but these two took it to another level when they held up a convenience store wearing name tags from their actual workplace. The store owner recognized them immediately from the tags and called their employer before calling police. The police found them still working their shifts the next day, acting like nothing happened. They'd literally advertised their identities while committing the crime. Unbelievably, a counterfeiter was caught because he printed fake $100 bills on his home printer and somehow didn't understand that modern currency has security features printers can't replicate. His fake bills were so obviously fake that store clerks questioned them immediately. He'd passed exactly 3 bills before being caught, leaving a trail of stores with descriptions of him. He'd also used his real name when trying to use one bill. Evidence from crime scenes sometimes tells ridiculous stories, like when a carjacker left his car running with the keys in the ignition while stealing someone else's vehicle. He got caught within an hour when police simply tracked down his abandoned car, which had his registration inside. He'd traded a perfectly functional running car for a stolen one for no logical reason, and made the theft significantly easier to solve. Surveillance footage occasionally captures crimes so incompetently executed that investigators wonder how anyone thought this would work. One attempted bank robber handed the teller a note saying, "This is a robbery," written in his own handwriting on the back of a check from his personal checking account. He'd pre-filled the check with his name, address, and account number before turning it over. The bank simply called the account holder. Perpetrators sometimes document their own crimes extensively, like the shoplifter who recorded herself stealing merchandise on her TikTok live stream while her followers watched in real time. She was narrating what she was stealing, which aisles had security cameras, and joking about store loss prevention. Police used her own broadcast footage as evidence and arrested her the following day based on viewer tips identifying her location. Incredibly, someone attempted to rob a bank using a handwritten note that fell apart upon being handled, leaving no legible message and just ink stains everywhere. The teller asked him to repeat his demand verbally. He then announced his robbery demand loudly enough for 5 other customers and 3 employees to hear clearly. He was caught before leaving the building because he'd announced his crime to a room full of witnesses. Criminal records sometimes document absurdity, like when a shoplifter hid stolen merchandise in a garbage bag, left it in the store's dumpster, planned to retrieve it later, then forgot which dumpster and which store he'd left it in. He called the store's customer service line asking if they'd found his accidentally dropped trash, and gave enough details that employees identified him and called police. He'd called to locate his stolen goods voluntarily. Thieves occasionally steal items so specific and trackable that they're caught immediately after sale, like someone who stole a rare limited edition gaming console from a store and immediately listed it online with its unique serial number still visible. The original owner saw the posting, recognized the console's specific serial number from their receipt, and police arrested the seller when they came to meet the buyer they'd arranged with the owner's fake account. Footage from traffic cameras once caught a careless criminal who'd committed a hit and run and left his passenger door open, with his very distinctive dog hanging out the window. The dog was so visible and identifiable from the footage that police issued a public alert asking about a distinctive golden retriever in a blue collar, which led directly to the vehicle owner and driver. He'd made his getaway while his dog provided identification. Astonishingly, a would-be jeweler thief called the jewelry store in advance to ask their security procedures and best times to rob them. He literally called ahead asking, "What time has the least staff?" The store owner, baffled, asked for his information and address under the guise of scheduling a special theft prevention consultation. Police waited at his house when he arrived home that evening. Somehow, a kidnapper texted ransom demands from his own phone number, which the victim immediately reported to police, providing a direct contact number for law enforcement to trace. He demanded payment through a money transfer app that required account verification using his real name and address. Police didn't even need to search for him. He provided all his information up front through the ransom demand process. Bewilderingly, someone committed a series of car thefts, but always returned home to the same apartment to sleep. Investigators simply staked out the location and caught him arriving home after each theft wearing distinctive clothing that matched surveillance footage. He'd apparently never considered that committing crimes in a specific geographic area while living in that same area makes location-based investigation incredibly straightforward. Offenders sometimes make calls that instantly incriminate them, like when a drug dealer called a police non-emergency line asking what the penalty was for possession with intent to distribute, then described his exact quantity and type of drugs to the dispatcher who was documenting everything. The police used his own phone number and recorded statement as evidence. He'd confessed during a call intended to gather legal information. Criminals occasionally choose disguises that accomplish nothing, like someone who robbed a store wearing a ski mask but left his distinctive tattoos on his neck fully visible. The footage showed his exact identifying marks while obscuring nothing useful. He was recognized by someone who'd seen him at a gas station earlier that day and reported his neck tattoo as the identifying feature that made the mask pointless. Prison records document the time someone attempted to mail themselves out of a correctional facility by hiding in a cardboard box addressed to his mother's house with a return address label. Correctional officers inspected outgoing mail as routine procedure and found an inmate-sized box with breathing holes. He thought he could literally mail himself to freedom like a package. The plan lasted about 15 minutes of inspection time. Unbelievably, an arsonist called the fire department to report the fire he'd intentionally set, providing so many specific details about the fire's location and nature that investigators immediately suspected involvement. His call recording became evidence of his knowledge before official discovery of the fire. He'd panicked and reported his own crime while trying to seem like a concerned citizen. Shockingly, a forger photocopied money on a copy machine at a public library and left the photocopies in the machine when he left. Library staff found hundreds of obviously fake bills still in the copier tray, with the security footage showing exactly who'd been using that machine. He hadn't even collected his work before departing, leaving behind completed evidence of his crime sitting in a public machine. Incredibly, someone attempted to commit identity theft using credentials he'd found in a dumpster, not realizing the ID belonged to a police officer. He activated credit cards under the officer's name, made purchases, and provided the officer's address as his own residence. When the officer received notification of credit card purchases at locations across town, he began staking out those locations. The thief showed up the next day for another shopping trip. Astonishingly, a would-be burglar broke into a house, tied up the residents, left them restrained while he supposedly went to get his car to load stolen goods, then came back asking if he'd left his house keys in their home during the robbery. The residents, still tied up, were able to direct police through phone calls about the burglar's location, appearance, and vehicle while he was actively committing the crime. Traffic violations occasionally lead police to much bigger crimes because someone was speeding to their criminal hideout. Officers pulled over a vehicle for speeding and found the driver was a person wanted for 3 separate robberies in different counties. The speeding ticket that prompted the stop led to recognizing the wanted person, who had multiple outstanding warrants documented. He'd been caught while essentially committing no additional crime, just speeding. Detectives discovered that a fence operation, someone who buys stolen goods, had been using his legitimate business address to conduct illegal transactions. He'd simply listed his stolen merchandise sales in the business directory he'd created. Police walked into his shop, compared inventory to reported thefts, found exact matches, and arrested him because he'd never concealed his operation. He'd committed the crime openly under his real business name. Unbelievably, someone attempted to use a stolen credit card at the exact same store where it had been stolen, during the same shift, with the same employee working the register. The employee immediately recognized the card, and the person wasn't the cardholder. She called police, who arrived while the person was still in the store. He hadn't even waited long enough for the theft to be reported or the card to be deactivated. A shoplifter came back to the same store multiple times to steal from it, following the exact same routine each visit, enabling security to predict his arrival patterns. They scheduled extra loss prevention staff the next time he was expected, arrested him as soon as he entered the store, and discovered he'd been recording his own thefts on his phone for some reason. His own evidence collection helped prosecutors build a case. Someone robbed a gas station and immediately went to the gas station's attached car wash using the stolen cash to pay for the wash. The surveillance system that covered the robbery also covered the car wash, creating a complete video of him spending his stolen money minutes after committing the crime. He was arrested at the car wash while waiting for his wash cycle to complete. Bewilderingly, a would-be escape artist attempted to break out of jail by hiding in a prison cafeteria trash bin, not realizing that prison staff empty trash into large compactor trucks that crush everything. He was discovered before the compactor ran, but the plan had involved getting crushed by garbage as his escape strategy. He received additional charges for the escape attempt, despite it being physically impossible to execute successfully. Someone tried to commit mail fraud by sending threatening letters demanding payment, but forgot to remove his return address from the envelope. Postal inspectors immediately knew where to find him based on the return label he'd helpfully included. He'd committed fraud while essentially providing a forwarding address to law enforcement on his own crime's evidence. Detectives discovered a stolen vehicle ring when one of the stolen cars got a parking ticket at a police station. The vehicle owner came to the police station to report the theft and found the police had already towed the stolen car and written a citation for it. The parking violation occurred because the thieves had stolen a car and parked it in the police station parking lot while presumably visiting the station for some reason. They transported a stolen vehicle directly to law enforcement's location. Someone attempted to hide stolen property in a public storage unit, but gave the facility his real name, address, phone number, and legitimate ID for the rental agreement. Police obtained a warrant and searched the unit using information the criminal had voluntarily provided. He'd committed theft and then created an official paper trail leading directly to his location.